Hello everyone, how are you doing? I hope that you are doing so very well. Even though I recorded that Owl Crate unboxing video, I still feel like it's been a while since I've been in front of the camera, so I'm still like trying to get back into the swing of things, but we're doing it. We're doing this thing. Today we are going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of February. I know last month I said I was taking kind of a chill time on reading and I wasn't reading as much, and then I read like 10.5 books this month. I don't really know either, guys. There was a lot of reading that went on here in my life. The half book is a novella, so it kind of counts. It works, whatever. The first book that I read this month was Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. I was sent this for a review by Penguin Random House, so thank you Penguin for sending me this book. This is a historical fiction YA World War II novel that follows 4 teenagers and the people traveling with them. It takes place in 1945, so it's towards the end of the war the Soviets are pursuing, so these people are fleeing that Soviet force. It's told from 4 different perspectives, which is kind of hard to get used to at first because the perspective chapters aren't that long, so it moves really fast. Though the writing was beautiful, it took me a little bit to get used to it, but once I was in, I was like, yes, this is great. I've read YA historical fiction, but I've not loved a lot of it, and this was a really solid historical fiction book. Honestly, if these characters were aged up, I feel like it would work as an adult novel. Really enjoyed it. It wasn't like amazing out of this world, but it was really good. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I read this book while I was in Ethiopia, so I didn't really take a ton of notes. After I finish my current read, I'm going to be rereading this and then reviewing it. The next book that I read was Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. This is about a girl who just kind of lives a normal life, and then she loses her job and applies for this other job that she has no experience in, which is taking care of a had an accident 2 years ago. Before that he was like super active, but now he is confined to a wheelchair and he doesn't have use of his arms or his legs. She signs up to take care of him, and it is a romance book, so you just can assume what's gonna happen there. This book is extremely addicting. I think I read it in like 24 hours. Any free moment I had, I was like, book. And I was reading so fast, I was like, I have to know what happens. It's really interesting to read. The characters are really fun to read. They have really great chemistry and really great interactions. You fall in love with all of them and you want the best for all of them. It was extremely sad. I know a lot of people talk about how it made them ugly cry, and I mean, it was sad for me, but it wasn't like heartbreaking. I think that's why it maybe didn't affect me as much as most other people. I liked it a lot. I just didn't like love it. It wasn't like the best book I've ever read. That being said, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's still really great, but it wasn't like life-changing for me. The next book I read was another ebook, and that is Angelfall by Susan E. I've had this on my Kindle for probably like 2 years. I've seen a lot of people talk about it, a lot of people love it, but I just was like, I'll pick it up when I pick it up. This is a post-apocalyptic YA novel. The angels have come down from heaven to rain their wrath over the earth and bring the apocalypse about, and Penryn and her family are in the middle of all of this. They decide to leave their house, and when that happens, Penryn's sister is taken by an angel and she acquires a wingless angel whose name is Rafi. The whole book is about her journey to try to get her sister back and all the struggles and things she goes through trying to do that. One thing I do want to say about this book is that if you're a Christian, it is pretty sacrilegious. It's about angels coming down from heaven. You would gather that it's pretty sacrilegious. I really loved all the characters, especially Penryn and Rafi, the 2 main characters. They had incredible chemistry, and their development and their relationship and their development as characters was really fantastic. The concept is super original, but like the actual things that happen and the tropes that happen are pretty standard YA post-apocalyptic tropes. I did love the world building. It was really interesting. It was really fun to read about. It was a really quick read, really fast read, and overall I enjoyed it. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read More Than This by Patrick Ness. This is about a boy that drowns and then he wakes up alone in this world and he's like, what happened? Am I by myself? Is this the afterlife? What's going on? And that's all I'm really gonna tell you about this book. Most people that I've talked to about this book said go in blind, and so I did, and I really feel like I enjoyed the book more because of that. It just is not what you think it is at all in any way, shape, or form, and it's way better to go in not knowing anything about it. I loved the characterization. The story was extremely unique and like nothing I've read before. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read World After and End of Days by Susan E. Because these are the second and third books in the trilogy, I don't want to say much about them. I actually read the World After summary when I was in the middle of reading Angelfall, and it spoiled some things for me, so I'm not gonna do that to you if you haven't read this trilogy. It still follows Rafi and Penryn and their journeys in this post-apocalyptic world. That's all you need to know. Same thing as the first, they were pretty tropey, pretty typical, but so fun to read, and still great world building. I gave both of these books a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read A School for Good and Evil by Soman Chainani. Literally never know if I'm saying his name right. Even if I've looked it up, I never ever know. This is about two girls named Agatha and Sophie, and they get whisked away from their town to this place called the School for Good and Evil, where heroes and villains learn to be heroes and villains. Sophie really believes she's in good, Agatha really believes she's in evil, and they actually are switched when they get to the school. And they're like, this is wrong, and so they're trying to figure out that and why they were placed in these schools. And there's a lot of different characters in there and a lot of different scenarios, and it's so fun. There's a lot of really great concepts, there's a lot of really great storytelling and characterization. It's also very much an anti-fairy tale, which I appreciate because I do love my fairy tales, but I also love anti-fairy tales just as much. This was a very enjoyable read. I can't wait to continue on with the trilogy because I'm sure it's fantastic. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I listened to the audiobook of Room by Emma Donoghue. I saw it on Scribd and I was like, yes, I need to listen to that, especially because I really want to watch the movie and I haven't yet, and I wanted to read the book before I saw the movie. This is a book told from 5-year-old Jack's perspective. He's an extremely smart 5-year-old, but he has grown up in this 11 by 11 room with his mom. His mom has been a captive for 7 years by this man that they call Old Nick, and this is just about their life in room and their journey. I'm just not gonna say any more than that. This is a really great read, and I honestly really enjoyed the audiobook. I thought I was gonna be very annoyed with Jack's narration at first. It took me a good 20 minutes to really get into it, and once I was, it wasn't that annoying. Jack is super smart, so it's really interesting seeing things from his perspective, and he's also not grown up around anybody besides his mom. There's a lot of psychological things that happen in this book and deep exploration of human emotions and how we view things, and it's just a very interesting read. It is hard to read at times because it is like a captive situation, but it's so good. I would definitely recommend it. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Stars Above by Marissa Meyer. Yes, Max, the sticker's still on here. Don't judge me. This is a Lunar Chronicles novella collection. I know a lot of these have already been published for free, but I hadn't read any of them. And the last novella is only in this collection, and it takes place after winter. It's fantastic, guys. You just get more of those characters, and they're some of my absolute favorite characters. I could read about them all day, every day. Overall, it was a pretty good novella collection. If it was going based on that last story alone, I would definitely give this a 5 out of 5 stars, but the rest were like kind of okay. Some of them I really liked, and then some of them were just like, like that was okay, but it wasn't fantastic. So I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The last full book that I read this month was This Is What Happy Looks Like by Jennifer E. Smith, and I also read the mini sequel novella, which is Happy Again, also by Jennifer E. Smith. I kind of got this on a whim from Book Outlet in my last Book Outlet order that the haul for is coming soon. I didn't really know much about it. I read the synopsis and I was like, that sounds really interesting. And then after reading Room, it was just like a really dark and heavy book, and I was like, it's time to pick up a contemporary. And this was literally the perfect fix. I needed this book. I love it so much. This is about two teenagers named Ellie and Graham, and whenever Graham is trying to contact someone about taking care of his pet pig, he mistypes the email and it goes to Ellie instead. And because of that, they strike up a correspondence and kind of talk for a few months, and then you find out that the guy that she has been emailing for these months was Graham Larkin, the star of the movie that is being filmed in her town. So you can only imagine what happens then. If you don't like contemporaries, you probably won't like this book, but if you're like me and you love contemporaries, you will love this book. It's so adorable. I'm actually currently rereading this because I wanted to review it, but also because I was in such a bad book hangover after this book. Could not deal. The characters have fantastic chemistry. The relationship building between the characters is really great. Everything is great. I love this book a lot, and I would highly recommend it. The mini sequel novella follows Ellie and Graham a year later. Don't want to say more than that because I don't want to give away what happens at the end of this book. I definitely reread Happy Again immediately after I read it the first time, so doing all the rereading, yeah! I gave this book and Happy Again a 5 out of 5 stars. And that's it. That's my wrap up. Let me know down below what your least favorite thing you read in the month of February was. Tell me what to avoid, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye. I just looked up how to pronounce her name, but now I need to do it again. Next up, I read World After. Wake me up inside. Wake up me. This is about two teenage thumbnail.